guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, with our very first episode in an analysis breakdown of the episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the new Disney Plus Marvel show that's coming to Disney Plus. Hopefully you guys have followed along with my WandaVision breakdowns and analysis. If you haven't, you can go back through the channel and find all of our discussions about post-WandaVision episodes and what happened with that series. Now that Marvel is transitioning over into their second long-form series, we figured we'd keep breaking down what happens in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Naturally, that means we're going to get into spoilers, so make sure that you've seen episode 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier before we dive into this video, and then to make sure that you don't miss any of the episodes as we post them, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and follow along with all of our up-to-date and very fun Marvel analysis. Okay, I'm going to assume that you watched the episode so we can dive right into spoilers, and I'll start basically where the episode ends, which is the introduction of Wyatt Russell's character, who I'm going to call U.S. Agent because he's basically based on the U.S. Agent character from the Marvel comics, although I'm not quite sure what they're going to call him in this series. I think they talked about the fact that he might not be a pure adaptation of U.S. Agent, and that they're going to try to explore some other layers of him, but this is someone who's taking up the mantle of Captain America, which Sam has rejected. And that's why I want to start by discussing the legacy of the Shield and how important it's going to be to, I think, where the Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be going. Now, if you go back to the very beginning of the episode, one of the very first interactions that we get to lead us into the series is a flashback to Avengers Endgame of Steve trying to give the shield to Sam. And Sam essentially saying that he's not going to take it.
How does it feel? Like it's someone else's.
Meaning Steve. Meaning the legacy of Steve is just too strong, and the shadow that he casts over everybody who's still left in the MCU is too prevalent, and Sam knows the importance of Captain America and of Steve Rogers, and we get a little bit more of that at the presentation in Washington, where Sam basically admits that, you know, he's not going to pick up the mantle, much to Rhodey's disbelief, sort of saying, like, how come you're not the one who's doing it? So Sam doesn't believe that he's worthy of the shield. But what I found pretty interesting by the end of this episode is that just because he thinks that he's not worthy of the shield, he also kind of thinks that, like, no one is worthy of the shield. And so you could tell by his reaction to the government appointing a new Captain America and, you know, someone else trying to step into the massive shoes left behind by Steve Rogers, that that's going to be an issue for Sam. He's not going to appreciate that. What I do find pretty intriguing about it too, though, and this is cheating a little bit, but I've seen the trailers and I've seen the clips that are being shown, and there's a lot of footage of Sam sort of practicing with the shield and throwing it against a tree and deflecting it around from different places that looks to be like a Louisiana mansion, where we know Sam's down in New Orleans and doing some stuff with his sister too. So does he get his hands on U.S. Agent's shield somehow, or is there like another shield? Like, I'm really curious to where we get to the point where it explains how Sam and Bucky acquire the shield and how they're going to move forward with it going on. The shield and the legacy of the shield and the importance of Captain America is something that is really relevant to the two characters who are driving this series forward, Bucky and Sam. Their relationships with Cap, their relationships with Steve that go back decades, nearly a century at this point, is what's going to be the theme of this show and the talking point. And it's like an extension of the Captain America legacy, which is why that sort of walk through the museum and the monuments that are integral to the story of Captain America was a really great sequence to take us through. And I do love how, as opposed to WandaVision, which definitely was its own little thing, self-contained to its little story, but had references to things that happened in the MCU. Right off the bat, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is doing a tremendous job of embracing its position as a story that takes place deep into the heart and the mythology of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point. And the legacy of the Shield is going to be really significant to what drives the motivations of these characters forward. That brings me to our second point, which is, so far from what we've seen in this episode, it's really strong character actors doing really strong character development. Outside of that aerial sequence, which opened up the episode, which was phenomenal, and had a nice callback to Batroc, the villain that we saw briefly at the beginning of Captain America the Winter Soldier. This is a character-driven episode. I mean, we spend long periods of time with both Bucky and Sam in their personal lives, moving on from the events that have taken place over the course of all the episodes and the movies that we've seen them in prior to this. And things are compelling. Like, you see Sam with his sister and trying to figure out how her family is going to move forward with this old boat that was part of their family's legacy. And there's a little bit of the back and forth of just like hey, you've been off being a superhero all this time, and I've been, boots on the ground trying to figure out how to make all of this work. And Sam's trying to be, the guy who steps in and helps. And you can understand that. You can kind of understand why he'd want to be involved in his sister's life and how she might be somewhat resentful is a strong word, but like, he's off doing his own thing and fighting alongside the Avengers, and she's got to make things work back at home. And so there's a push and a pull. And then that scene in the bank is really well done because, these are people who are public figures. And with that comes some celebration, but also some scrutiny. And the way that the bank manager has to be realistic in telling them why they don't qualify for the loan hits home. It's great to see the small problems that they have. And I like the human sort of development. These issues that can plague a superhero when they're out of their suits and they're not facing down world-threatening domination. Although I think we're going to get to that with the threats that come up. And then, of course, Bucky's redemption tour. And it goes to show just how great of actors both Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie really are when they get a chance to sink their teeth into some dramatic material. Sebastian Stan is fantastic in this episode. I loved how he's going to such great lengths to atone for the work that he did as the Winter Soldier. And an assassin who has a ledger is a tired cliche, and it's one that they use in the Marvel Cinematic Universe every once in a while, especially for like Black Widow. Bucky's has been getting some of it as well too, and it looks like it's going to get explored even more here. But there's a beautiful, sort of sad element to the older man that he's befriended once you realize that it was his son that he eliminated in that flashback that we get to watch as the Winter Soldier. And our heart bleeds a little bit for Bucky because he was programmed to be a certain way, but it's really nice now that he's going through the motions to try and to make things right as best he can. But he's realizing that he's bitten off more than he could chew with that one, and not able to quite make amends for all of the bad things that he's done in his life and over the course of his career. So the fun scene with Bucky sort of trying to go on a date with somebody. But, ultimately she brings up the point about the old man sort of grieving the loss of his son and how difficult it is as a parent to lose somebody, and that pushes Bucky over the edge, and he's not able to fully sort of assimilate himself back into the world. So we'll figure out how that propels him forward in the narrative. We also do get an indication of the new threats that are going to be extended. This is one of those episodes that fills in a lot of backstory, explains to you where our main characters are, but does a lot of laying of the groundwork for different places that the series can explore as we go into... Now, there's only 6 episodes to Falcon and Winter Soldier, so the action's going to have to move pretty quickly because we meet 2 main adversaries so far in this, in the LAF, which Batroc was part of, and we didn't get a full understanding of their mission, what they were trying to accomplish, but after they take down the LAF, and I wonder if they'll come back, I wonder if they were just a one-time episode sort of adversary, the Falcon had to stop them and get that scientist back, or if like after the fact when they were having this discussion they were really meant to just set up the Flag Smashers. Flag Smashers seem like they're going to be a pretty significant thing of the show moving forward, and we see one mission that they go on as the colleague of Sam Wilson was trying to infiltrate them from within. That mission was curious because it just seemed like a money grab, like it just seemed like a smash and grab sort of robbery. But the guy who they introduce, who we didn't get a really good look at because he was masked, seems to have some sort of increased strength. And if I'm trying to think back through Civil War, I do know that they had a series of super soldiers that had extra power, because I was intrigued by the fact that Sam had questions about the status and abilities of this guy. And he sort of stopped short of expanding on his theory, but the fact that they had Anthony Mackie explain that before he got to see the reveal of U.S. Agent on the news, he definitely had a theory about something, and I wonder if it ties back to the super soldiers that we were supposed to get at the end of Captain America Civil War. And the reason why I bring that up is because we know that the third threat that's eventually going to become prominent in this show is Baron Zemo, and we didn't even get a chance to meet him in this new episode, but I wonder how involved in the Flag Smashers he's going to be. Now, Zemo, who's played by Daniel Bruhl, was somebody who pulled the strings behind the scenes to manipulate the Avengers against each other, and I would assume if they're bringing him back that they've got a really good plot in place, because he is absolutely a manipulator who has bigger schemes in place, and he was able to successfully pit Steve Rogers against Tony Stark, and so in an effort to sort of tear the Avengers apart for what they did to Sokovia. I can't wait to see what motivations they figure out to bring him back for this, and I wonder if it's going to involve the Flag Smashers. So we've got a lot of pieces on the board. You know that I love to use the chessboard analogy of how first we set up the board and all the different places it can go. So we have the legacy of Captain America and the shadow that he's still casting over both Bucky and Sam. We have Bucky atoning for all of the terrible actions that he did, and we have Sam trying to assimilate himself back into real life. The introduction of the Flag Smashers and the LAF, if they decide to go down that route. And we have the introduction of U.S. Agent, and somebody who's going to try to fill the massive shoes of Captain America. And all of these things will unfold over the course of this first season of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that doesn't even speak to the fact that we're going to get Sharon Carter, who's going to be prevalent throughout the course of this series. We'll be back here for episode number 2 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I want to see how much more the legacy of Captain America is going to extend over this show. Like, he's such a predominant figure, but you forget that, like, his emotional impact on the main characters of this show, whether it be Sharon Carter, whether it be Bucky or Sam, are going to be, you're going to feel the weight of them in the decisions that are made by the different characters. And I also just want to see Marvel action. Like, for Marvel fans who sort of complained that WandaVision was a little bit too heady, this is traditional MCU. Like, this is just, you dive right in with this amazing aerial sequence. It looks like the budget that they are giving these shows is spare no expense. So hopefully we'll find out more starting with episode number 2 of 6. So this is going to move pretty quickly, and we'll get to know more about whoever U.S. Agent is going to be, who Wyatt Russell is playing, and what impact him taking on the Shield is going to have on both Bucky and Sam. Meet me back here next week. We will have watched episode number 2 of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. We'll continue our analysis all the way through it right here on CinemaBlend. If you're on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and every time a new video drops, you'll be the first one to learn about it.